All right, welcome to another LinkedIn Learning Live Office Hour. And today we'll talk about how you can boost your potential with AI. There's so much talk about what AI can do for you, but I see in a lot of the workshops that I give and trainings that I have with leaders and professionals that making the tools available is only one thing. The next step is how do you actually use them and what can you use them for? So I'm so super excited to have fellow LinkedIn Learning instructor Alison McCauley on today to talk about our new courses on the topic and why you can boost your productivity with AI and how to do it to begin with. Alison, thank you so much for joining.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. It's always so great to have a conversation with you.
Wonderful. Hey, why don't we jump straight in? I see so many organizations are rolling out Copilot, ChatGPT. It ticks the box. We've done our work for the AI strategy. I can report this up to the board or to my manager. But then I see so many people just use it to draft emails, to summarize meeting minutes, and that's the experience with AI. But I mean, you and I have been in the industry for a long time, even before agentic AI, before generative AI. And we know that there's so much more that you can do with AI than just drafting emails and writing summaries. So I'm wondering, what are you seeing? How can we work with these tools differently? How can we actually boost our potential?
That is the question right now. And you're right. It is the top use case right now, are those two things that you mentioned. And it's missing a lot on the table. The real opportunity, and this is true of individuals and teams and organizations, any way you look at it, the real opportunity is actually about empowerment, being able to achieve more and do more. And there's a couple different angles of that. So one is, what am I really good at that I can amplify and do more? Where's my expertise? This is an opportunity for us to amplify our expertise and do more with it, get more out of that. Another angle is, what gaps or challenges do you have, limitations that you have? Because AI gives us opportunity to work around them. So I give a lot of keynotes on AI and I have a lot of stories that I share. One story that I share that people like a lot is when I talk about my daughter. She is whip smart. She's really, really smart, but like many of us, she's got some challenges, and hers is a processing disorder around absorbing large amounts of text. So 2 years ago, when Chat GPT or OpenAI first came out with GPTs, she created a GPT specifically to help her navigate really tough text and basically come up with like a custom cliff notes. And it helped her understand the material better so that she could better participate in class. Now, fast forward, that was 2 years ago. So fast forward 2 years, she's using it to learn all kinds of things really quickly and being very empowered in her job. And so we're seeing that whatever gap you have or challenge you want to work around, you can do it. So that coupling is an ability to get more out of the brains we were born with. That's the opportunity. And hey, it's great to be able to write emails and summarize, but there's a bigger opportunity there.
Sure.
But there's challenges along with it. I'm curious. We've been hearing a lot of this term Workslop, right? And I'm curious how you look at Workslop and how you think about what to do about it.
Great question. Um, I recently was in a workshop with leaders, and I asked them, raise your hand if you've heard the term Workslop. And to my surprise, about half the room, about 10 people or so, raised their hand. A lot more than when I asked a different group like 4 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. So the term seems to stick more. But in case you are new to the term AI Workslop, this is what it is. It's low quality content information that's generated with the help of AI. Right? Somebody drafts an email with AI, looks at this briefly, says, "Yeah, it's good enough. I'll send it off." Or, "Hey, Alison, can you take a look at this draft of the report that I created?" You open it and you start reading through it, and like, yeah, it's not bad. The information is there, but it's not super deep. It's not super well structured. Maybe and there's a lot of detail missing. And maybe you in the audience have experienced that too. By the way, recent studies show that about 40% of employees have received that kind of work slop, subpar quality, low quality content within the last month. And what that means is you now, as the recipient, you need to rework it. You need to get it from mediocre, meh, good, to actually great, to something that you can stand behind, something that your team is known for good quality, something that your customers will actually pay money for and not just ask for a refund. And that's the big challenge, right? We can create information at scale now at a fraction of the cost than before, but we also need to make sure that our quality lines up with what the expectations are. So in my latest course, it's something where I guide learners through how can you achieve that? How can you use AI and use it well, and still be responsible and accountable for high quality results that you deliver? And I think we need to talk much more about that, um, especially now that AI makes this so much more prevalent, and again, the capability so much more accessible.
I look at this as too as an urgency to learn about AI and how to use AI. Because if you don't do that, you don't recognize the work slop that it's producing. So you need to be able to not be seen as somebody who's just producing this. You need to understand, what does it look like when AI is creating something that doesn't really represent me. So
That too, right? A couple of weeks ago, I was on a meeting with HR leaders, and HR supervisor said, "Hey, one of our employees on the factory floor has been using ChatGPT a lot, to the point where her peers said, 'Hey, you need to tone it down. This doesn't sound like you. We know you're using AI and it's great, but we know that's not how you talk. So can we maybe give you some advice or some suggestions? It's fine if you use it, but we prefer if, first of all, you read what you're actually sending out, and secondly, if it also sounded more like you.'" Now, I know you also have a couple courses out more recently about how do you use AI, how do you boost your potential. So I thought, why don't I put them up here, and maybe you can share a little bit more about what they're all about and who they help and what learners will get out of them.
yeah, this is actually a really fun way to get started with a better understanding of AI. So I've got a couple courses where I focus in on using AI to really boost your creative potential, whether that's as an individual or as a team. And there is a real opportunity, whether you think of yourself as creative today or not, to use AI to boost your creative superpowers and your creative confidence. So this is a way to juice your thinking, break through barriers, find new ideas. And employers are really valuing creativity because it helps to drive creative solutions to challenging environments. It helps with agility. So this is also everything you learn in the course itself. These courses are chock full of advice and ideas and tips and things you can do. And while you're taking the course and while you're learning that, you're also learning things that are extensible to other areas. So it's just a great on-ramp to learning about not only AI, but getting immediate value in your life from it, to your life, your personal life, and in your work life.
That's
So,
fantastic.
Andreas, I'd love to hear more about these courses. I mean,
Yeah.
they look fantastic and timely.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was in Carpinteria at the LinkedIn studios at the end of August to record the one that you see here at the top, how AI agents augment human skills in the workplace, because I see this immediate need, on one hand, to encourage and empower the use of AI, but at the same time also giving information and tangible examples of how can you use it well. So that's what this course is all about. And then if you're more in a leadership role and you're wondering, how can I actually prepare my organization for this kind of change when there's more AI that we are asked to introduce or that we want to introduce, because there's so many more opportunities? How do I actually do that? Where are the opportunities to look at? How do I navigate the conversation within my organization? So you'll find a lot of value in those as well. And by now, I think more than 36,000 learners have taken The one in more than 25,000 learners have taken the other one. So lots of interest, lots of good feedback as well, which is always nice as an instructor when you get that kind of feedback too.
You-
So yeah.
There's an interesting theme that I've noticed throughout this conversation so far, and that is that, you know, there's a lot of organizations and people that are thinking about this moment in terms of incremental productivity. Like, how can I do this one thing a little better, or this workflow just a little better? And I think a lot of what we're talking about is that there's this massive opportunity if we lift our gaze to use AI to forge new ground and to do something that is really truly advancing us, our mission, our team, our organization. Does that resonate with you?
Oh yeah, deeply actually. You know, I'm about to publish my second book called The Human Agentic AI Edge. That's all about how can you,
Amazing.
right? Yeah, thank you. How can you empower your teams to use AI, but use it well, use it responsibly? By the way, I think we need to expand the definition of responsible AI. It's not just how can we build systems that are fair and that are as free of bias as possible, but it's also how do we use these tools in a way that we don't create more work for the people that we send the information to. So to me, that's a big part. So yes, a lot of the conversation right now, I think, is happening around this productivity, personal productivity. I mean, come on, it's easier than ever to have your AI assistant on your phone and get some help, get some ideally valuable output. But there's also so much more, right? It's not just how do I draft emails, how do I summarize meeting minutes, but it's operational efficiency, it's a strategic differentiation. What are the things outside of my own immediate area? What's in our business function? What's in our business as a whole that drives us forward? Where we can use the data we have, where we can get better insights, where we can engage with our customers differently, maybe offer some new products or services with the data we have. And I think that's the bigger opportunity. But you have to start somewhere. So I think agentic AI, generative AI, the tools we have at the moment, they're a good starting point and a good on ramp to that discussion.
You know, I've discovered something else that is extremely effective for being able to hone in on value and figure out and deal with that challenge of where to start. Because it's, you know, we have endless opportunities with AI. We can truly do anything. And so it activates what's called the paradox of choice, where we have so many choices, limited choices. Often we freeze and not knowing what to do. And that's why we're doing those emails and synthesizing meeting notes and kind of in that churn cycle around there. And I found a really effective way to help break out of that. And I do workshops around this, and it's really magical to watch, is where you get teams together, or you can even do this as an individual, and you ask really big questions about what barriers have been holding me back. What goals have I struggled to make progress on? Or what would I do if I had no limitations? And so you get really introspective. You can do that as a team, or literally you can go to and notice how I'm not talking about AI right now. I'm talking about big questions. You can go to a coffee shop and journal it out. I often do that to think about, like, what big areas, if I could just do this, I could do this. And that gives us this exploration place, this mind space to then go to AI with bigger opportunities. And so that's an opportunity once you identify a challenge or two that's just something that will truly advance you, to then take that to AI. And my favorite pro move is to do some thought partnership with AI and use AI to generate ideas and a plan for how AI can help you with that. It is a huge unlock. So I've done this with teams at the C-level. I've done this with coaching individuals, and it's just a few hours to an amazing unlock. It's a really cool process.
I love it, especially the question of what would I do if I had no limitations, if I could do anything, right? And then you start working backwards from there, and you're like, well, I can work out a plan, whether I do this myself or, to your point, with the help of AI. Help me think through this. What are some things I would need to get in place? How do I get there? And it becomes really more of a thought partner. But this question of what could I do if there were no limitations, I think that's one of the fundamental ones that opens your mind, exactly like you said. So you can think differently, and you can think broader, and you can also, then take the steps to make it happen. By the way, that's
It's
the
that
next step.
reframing, that
Yeah.
reset. Andreas, there's so much pressure on the C-suite right now.
Yeah.
So much pressure. Make AI happen. Just do it. What are you seeing are the things that really are helping the C-suite prepare right now?
Mm-hmm. I think thinking in three different buckets. One is definitely this personal productivity. Yes, we give everybody Copilot or ChatGPT, and we hopefully also give them training on how to use it as a thought partner, how to use it beyond just text. Then I think enables your team members to be more literate in that sense, have a better understanding of what can AI actually do, and then think again more broadly, almost like an onion in the next layers outside of that. So if we can process vast amounts of text, like the example you shared with the GPT, where do we have lots of text in our business function that we struggle to analyze, to get insights from, to respond to compare, and then you get to something that is more tangible than boiling the ocean, and you get more value out of it, ideally beyond again writing emails and writing summaries. It sounds like a broken record, I realize, but that's something we just need to hammer into people's minds, I think, and broaden what is possible. So if you're in a C-suite role, um, I would say look for opportunities also in the software that you use already. Right? You have a stack of technologies, of applications, of vendors that you've been working with for a long time. All of them have been adding AI over the last 3 years. It's a race. Right? Everybody comes out with new features quarter after quarter, month after month. And there's so much innovation happening in the market that companies are actually lagging behind. Customers are lagging behind with the adoption. I mean, we know how organizations work. We need to understand what do these features actually do? Are they applicable in our business? Do they meet our security requirements? How much does this cost? And it's a process for sure, and you should follow your process, but you also need to see how can you condense it a little more and get to answers more quickly, so you can decide, should we fire up this feature here, should we fire up that there, do we need something else, what problems do we have, by the way, start with that one first. What business problems do we have, what vendors do we have in-house, what capabilities do they offer that might address these problems? So that's the net of it. But really, yeah, looking at this as a business opportunity, as a strategic opportunity, rather than sprinkling a little bit Copilot across the organization and say, no, we're done with our AI strategy.
You bring up such an important point too about how we're at the point where innovation has exceeded our human capacity to absorb it. It happened a while ago. And so there's a lot of fear of not keeping up, fear of where to jump in. And a lot of also what we've been talking about today is that importance of focus and alignment on what's really going to matter. And so you just mentioned it here in terms of how do we ensure that the areas that we're really digging into are those that are going to have value. And then another piece that I found organizations that are more effective at seizing the AI opportunity right now are those that are really activating their learning networks across their organization. So there's actually a lot of change management structures and organizational mechanisms that we've used for some time. These are battle tested that we can apply to the AI challenge right now and just tweak them a bit, amplify them a bit, and enable our organizations to become more of a learning network where people are able to not only share what they're discovering, but be inspired by what others are discovering. And this is so critical for being able to advance your organization today, because everybody is learning right now. And so the organizations and the people that are going to succeed in that future, that present actually, and that future, are those that have really been able to activate their learning network. So this is another big piece. And it comes down to, that's why these courses are so great too, is because they offer such accessible learning that really matters.
Yeah. I gave a workshop a couple of weeks ago for a financial services institution, and They've just hired their first head of AI to lead this whole topic a couple of months ago, and they brought together leaders in one session, and they brought together a second group in the next session. And that group was all champions, early adopters that
Yeah.
they've recruited across the business with their senior leaders' support to bring them together to share what is working. How are you using this? What have you seen? What have you tried out, maybe even outside of work, that's applicable here? And so I asked them, what is your, or what was your aha moment working with the technology? How are you using this? And just seeing the conversation in the room and sparking ideas, and oh, he's working on that, and she said she's using it for this. I should try this out. That's where the magic happens, and it's something that I've applied when I was working at SAP to bring teams together and create this shared opportunity for learning as well. So I was super stoked to see that even early on their journey, this financial services institution was following that principle as well. So, like you said, yeah. Alison, question for you.
Yeah.
What's the best way to connect with you for folks in the audience that want to learn more about what you do, what you share on LinkedIn, what your courses are, what's new, what's coming out?
Yeah. So I share a lot of free content on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, of course, is a fantastic way to keep in touch. I have a newsletter. It's called Your Brain on AI. It comes out about once a month. So it's not going to inundate your inbox, and gives a perspective on being able to leverage AI. And then I've got a book, How to Think with AI. And you can also find more on my website at alisonmacaulay.io.
Fantastic. So do check that out. All of it. I've been following you for a long time, and we've had a number of great conversations on these topics, both that we stream, but also, more conversations one-on-one, what we're seeing in the industry. So always appreciative of your perspective. I know you're in Silicon Valley. You do a lot of work with companies there. So always at the forefront of what's happening.
And how does everyone keep in touch with you and follow your work?
Yeah, thank you. So if you want to keep in touch with me, pretty similar. Follow me on LinkedIn. I post every day about how do you bring AI into your business, what do you need to be aware of, what's happening here in the market that's relevant for businesses. My book's called the AI Leadership Handbook, that helps leaders bring AI into their organization. The topic we just talked about communities of multipliers, community of champions, that's in there. A lot about how do I even align my AI strategy with my business strategy? How do I find opportunity and value in AI? That's all there. My newsletter is called the AI Memo, comes out once a week. So take a look at that too. And yeah, I mean, we've talked
And a
about the
new book
courses.
coming soon.
Yes, and a new book right there. This is what it looks like. There's a short version of it too on LinkedIn.
I can't wait.
Yes, neither can I. It's a process, and the more you get to the end, the more you see the finish line, and you want to get past
Oh,
it.
books are really hard. I do. I think it's like when you write a first book, I feel like it's like birthing a child, which I've also done multiple times, is that you forget how painful it is, and so then you go and write another one. I don't know. It's not painful for you. I find it very difficult to
No,
write.
it's enjoyable, but if you want to make sure that it's really, really good quality and there's a lot of valuable information,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of time.
It's driven by passion. Believe me, it wouldn't be my
yes,
first choice to spend my
yes.
time, but I do it because I almost feel a compulsion to share what I've learned,
Yeah.
and so that's what's gotten me going.
I've seen authors use AI to write books, or lean a little too much on Perplexity, a little too much on ChatGPT.
Oh, it's a real problem now. Yeah.
Right, and it's this conversation also about, well, I can use it as a replacement for a human person or for human feedback, and I think you need to keep it in balance. But also in business, there's this conversation of, hey, you have digital workers, or some of the ads that I've been seeing, the billboards in New York City, basically saying, hey, why do you still need people? Hire our digital workers. And I don't think it's necessarily helpful, because there's a lot of angst, a lot of confusion, a lot of fear in the market. We see a lot of companies and CEOs talk about, we need fewer entry-level roles where we're just automating what we have, and AI is like a person. So I'm always curious to hear from I guess, what do you think? Is it like a person? Should you use it like an assistant? Should you think of it like a human assistant? And when is it helpful and when does it hinder you more?
So think about this. When we live in a world where there's a lot of synthetic everything all around us, which we're increasingly see, especially say on our social media feeds, on YouTube. This ranges from images to video to, you mentioned Workslop earlier.
Yeah.
When we live in a world where also everyone all has the best technology, right? The weaker models are pretty powerful, right? There's amazing innovation right now. In that world, I think we're going to increasingly see that the real differentiator is true human authenticity and connection. And so I believe that we will get to a transition where that human connection is assigned more economic value. And so we will be able to use AI actually to free us to have that true human to human connection, which has all kinds of business implications. You can think about better patient outcomes. You can think about more strategic ecosystem building. You could think about developing more strategic, productive relationships with customers. I mean, there is an infinite possibility. The key thing comes down to the imperative that right now you got to keep your brain in the lead. I mean, we were talking about books before.
Yeah.
So I wrote my book. It was a long time ago in AI age. And I am very specific about making sure that I am fully mining my brain and embracing the creative struggle and the challenge of it, which is honestly, we were talking about it. It's excruciating. The creative struggle is hard. You are truly dancing with your own thoughts in a very difficult way to try to find these insights. I embraced that and made myself go through that. And I wrote two entire versions of my book before ever turning to AI. This is a book on AI. And so the reason I've done this with previous books too. I write multiple versions because the market is evolving and changing as I write. It's a way for me to process my thinking is through the writing. And so the first version, the market had changed, people's receptivity to AI had changed. And so I made a revision around that. It's only then that I started doing micro editing with AI assistants. And that shocks people that I took that approach. But this is critical. Keep your brain in the lead. The best way to erase your future, especially for young people, is to let AI do your work. You need to use it to amplify what your brain can produce and get more out of the brain you have, and really lean into human. I think of this, I call this human plus. This is a world for human plus. So how do you think about this?
I love that the augmentation. For the last 2 years, I've been thinking about this and talking about this analogy. We've all heard about elevator pitches. So think about a literal elevator pitch. You go to to a customer, maybe in your own business. You go in the elevator. Somebody else joins you. Doors close. Elevator moves up. All of a sudden, power outage. Just this little light. And the other person says, "Hey, aren't you Alison, or aren't you Andreas? I read your report. I read your blog on this or that topic, and I wanted to ask you how did you come up with this? Why did you feel this way? I have a different perspective." Now, if you used AI to write the whole thing, and all you did was give a prompt, write a blog post about I don't know, changes in the workplace with AI, but you don't actually have a real opinion about it because all you did was enter the prompt, you'll have a hard time having this conversation, and it'll show. So if you want to be seen as knowledgeable in your field, if you want to be able to have that conversation, you need to do the hard work as well. And that starts with, to your point, sitting down, looking at data, researching information, synthesizing it, the same process that we've gone through before AI, so that you are confident to have this conversation, so you know what you're actually talking about. I see this with students all the time who use AI as a crutch. That's a challenge when you ask probing questions. Why did you do this? Why did what could be other things that you might have done? We're seeing this in the workplace too. So please don't be that version of yourself. Rather research the information, think about it, sit down. What could this mean? How are things related? By all means, use AI to get a little help. But to your point, articulate your own thoughts and your opinion first before you default or delegate to AI.
Honestly, it's such a pivotal moment for everyone, and it's hard. Like, it is hard to go through that. You're actually thinking harder. Like, you're working your brain harder when you're effectively using AI, because it's pushing you to new ground and helping you explore things that you may not have been as savvy or comfortable in before. And so it's actually pretty hard. And we're going to be facing, the world is going to split, because we're going to have this division between those who are truly letting AI do the work for them and are losing their ability to atrophying their ability to think. And then you're going to have others who are using it to amplify what they can achieve and to go into new ground that they couldn't before. And so the world will split. And so what side do you want to be on? And I think that's something that really comes out actually in both of our in our entire suite of courses that you see represent. I think there's 5 courses represented between the two of us right now, where you have, these are ways for you to practice in different ways to understand, how do I keep my brain in the lead? And how can I use this to do more, to boost what I can achieve? So I think this is just a nice suite to select from and understand, how do I keep in that brain in the lead mindset? And how do I get on the right side of change?
So important and so powerful, right? Especially when we talk about boosting your potential. It's about, like you said, human plus. It's about augmentation. It's about being, as I call it, AI ready, when everybody shouts for AI first. But you need to start somewhere, and you need to think about, how can I become AI ready? How can I use these tools to augment what I'm doing, to really also shape that next generation of your AI ready teams.
And I think people underestimate how much intent and focus that takes. So it takes a lot of intent. It's kind of like building a habit to drink more water because you know it's healthy, or to go to the gym. Like, it's that same principle, that you have to do it with intent and focus and determination to be someone who is truly boosted by AI, and not somebody who is erasing their future.
Yeah. By the way, I think 32 was the magic number, not 42, but 32 days consecutively is what it takes to build a habit. So if your new habit that you're trying to build for 2026, beyond the first half of January, right, when we throw out all of our good intentions, but if you're looking to build a good habit to boost your potential, 32 days, come back to Alison's course, to my courses, connect with us on LinkedIn. To stay in the loop on what's happening, how can you elevate, how can you boost your creative potential and use AI in the right way, that you don't create Workslop. So, Alison, we've covered a lot of ground over the last 30 minutes. Thank you so much for joining, for sharing what's new, how we can boost our potential with AI, and do so without creating Workslop. Really enjoyed our conversation. I hope folks, you in the audience, did as well. So follow us on LinkedIn. Let's connect, and let's see how we can help each other here on this journey.
Looking forward to hearing about your new book too.
Awesome. Exactly. Coming out on February 25th.
I can't wait. Awesome.
Yes, the human agentic AI edge. Thank you. All right. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.